Welcome everyone to the Crew Coach, and we have a very special vlog series for Christmas, just because there are a lot of crew at the moment who are going through a difficult time with regards to isolation and being the Christmas period where their friends and family are celebrating Christmas, and they perhaps feel rather lonely because they may be in the yard or the boat's been winterized and they don't have their full crew on board. So I'm very lucky to have with us Sally, and Sally was a previous client of mine, and why this is so special is because she's going to share with us her experience of feeling lonely as well as her experience of counseling. So this is a really rare opportunity because counseling is very private and personal. So I'm very grateful to have Sally with us here today. Thank you, Sally.
Hello.
So we're going to start off with isolation and loneliness and your personal experience being crew in the past, what that was like for you.
Yeah, well, basically, I've over the years, so 6 different boats that I've been on in 8 years. There's been an element in each one, I think. But the main ones that have stuck out for me, one being when I was in Palma and we were in the yard. I was on a much smaller boat, just 6 crew, and it went down to basically 2 of us and then 2 people that lived off the boat. So it was just me and my husband, which is fine for us, and you know, we're happy to sort of be by ourselves, but it somehow, being on a boat, you kind of have that feeling that you should be friends with lots of different people and doing lots of things. So it then, because you have those feelings, I suppose, it felt like we should be doing lots of stuff with people and we weren't, which then made it feel very isolated and very lonely.
So was it almost
not really
like a shock to the system, because working on yachts, you can become institutionalized where you're used to a particular environment where there's lots of people around you, you're eating together, you're going off the boat together, and you're always around people. So from having lots of people down to just a few crew members around you, do you think that had a role to play?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, yeah, we were so used to. We actually went from a boat which was 70 meters with 21 crew to this boat, and we did the summer with a really nice crew, and then we got to the winter and the captain left with his girlfriend, and we were left with the 2 deckhands, and they both sort of went off and did their own thing. So yeah, it was such a big sort of shock to have this sort of nice sort of family feel to everyone just disappearing. And going into the yard, yeah, you just kind of, I just felt we should be doing more, but we weren't, and we were just so used to having so much going on around us, and then it was just nothing really. And even though, and obviously I'm so lucky that I've been able to work with Alex on every boat that I've worked on, I like to have a friend or a couple of girls that, you know, I can go off and do different things with, and I just didn't have that. And for 6 months during that winter period, it definitely affected our relationship in the way that I expected more of him, because he had to then fill every role. Like, he had to be, I mean, he is my best friend, and you know, we're happy to spend all of our time together, but he did have to sort of jump into the shoes of wanting to do absolutely everything that I wanted to do. And then I would kind of be in the place where I'd be like, it's okay, I can do this by myself. And then I'd go off and do it by myself and be like, okay, well, this isn't great. And you just kind of miss having people around you and having so many people around you where you can pick and choose who you hang out with, to not having any choice whatsoever.
Yeah.
And in that time, something really significant happened in our relationship, and we got engaged just before that winter period. And then I don't know if I want to say it. I don't know if I want it to, I don't know how to sort of get around it without actually saying what it is. But when I lost my engagement ring, that really put a huge strain on our relationship. Firstly, because I lost something that was so incredibly expensive and thoughtful, and all of that surrounding what an engagement ring means. And then the fact that I was absolutely blind drunk, and I kind of didn't really know what had happened to it, but I thought I knew, and then I was like, I don't actually know. It was just such a huge thing that happened to us that we were going to get through regardless. But it was so tough getting through that, so tough not really having anyone to talk to about it, because I was so embarrassed and devastated, and he was embarrassed and devastated that we didn't have anyone, neither of us had anyone to, because I was like, please don't tell anyone. And I didn't even really tell my best friend. And obviously at the time we were like, quick, let's just buy a new one and not worry about, like, let's just get past this and buy a new one and get a new one on my finger. And it was just such an awful time to go through something as well, with not having anyone to talk to about it. So that really sort of accelerated that whole situation, basically. And then I was in the mindset like, right, I need to make new friends, and trying to make new friends without really trying is really difficult. So I didn't really do anything to make friends. I would sort of, ask, like, if I was out if we did see some friends, I'd be like, oh, do you want to maybe go for a coffee sometime? And they'd be a bit like, well, yeah, I suppose so. And it was really different. Like, I think in that way, I feel like I am really awkward, and I'm a bit like nervous about saying something. And when it does come out, people are a bit like, that sounds really creepy. So it's like a really difficult. So yeah, I think in hindsight I would have joined a yoga class, or I think
I just want, because are you talking about being in Parma at the time?
Yeah,
because I know we've also had a few suicides recently in Parma, and
oh my God.
some people say that it's really, I've never been to Parma from memory. I might have done a chat, I can't remember, but I haven't stayed there for an extended period of time. But a lot of people say it can be quite lonely.
It's honestly, I think I've never felt so lonely being there, and I had Alex. It's so, I think that being Spain, it's such a sociable country, And they, you know, they all go out for drinks, they're always in big groups, they're always doing, you know, dinners, and all the restaurants and the bars are always so bustling that you feel you should be part of something. And actually, I kind of feel, on one respect, it is a bit of a party town. So if you're not really into that, and you don't really want to go out getting absolutely hammered every evening, and you just want to go out for a nice meal and maybe a drink or do an activity, it's really hard to find a group that just wants to do that. I mean, we would always say to ourselves, right, this weekend we're going to go up into the mountains and we're going to do some walking, or we'll hire some bikes and go for a nice long cycle ride. And you do that, but once you've done that a couple of times, you're kind of like, oh, I've done it now.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It was really hard for us to keep motivated and keep doing things that aren't related to alcohol. So I think, yeah, for us it was really difficult. And I think Alex also felt, I think he probably felt the same, but I don't think it bothers him as much as it did me.
Yeah.
Because I would clearly be antsy, and I want to make friends and I want to do this, and when I couldn't, or when I didn't manage to make friends, I would then be like, oh, and get really down about it.
Yeah.
Which then we sort of tried to get friends and family to come and visit us, which for me is great. I love having my family and friends come and visit. But the time when they go, as soon as they leave, it's like I'm like up here, and as soon as they leave, I'm like down here. I just find it so difficult to say goodbye and then be like, oh, well,
So
this
it
is
almost
what
makes it worse. The downer is
more
intense. Yeah, it's really.
yeah.
So my concern is I don't feel that captains are aware of the effect of isolation on crew and the feelings of loneliness, and how this can play out in various behaviors. So for example, if you feel lonely, you might start drinking more or isolating. There's so many things that can happen as a result of isolation, loneliness, and mental health issues is one of them. So obviously, more recently, we've got the Happy Crew app, which is about to launch. And the idea of that is connecting crew who are like-minded and share similar hobbies and interests, and so that they can do these various activities together, which is fantastic. But say if you were a captain, how would you take care of your crew over those periods like Christmas or the winter season?
Oh my God. Possibly, I think the thing, left to our own devices, and obviously this is not everyone, but I feel a lot of people that I've been in contact with and similar like-minded crew members, we just think the only way we can have real fun is by going day drinking, eating, you know, partying, and I find a lot of the time, if you're sort of in that mindset, it's almost a no-brainer that that's what we're going to do. Oh, what are we doing today? Oh, let's try this lunch place, let's go for a breezy lunch, let's do this. I think for a captain, it would be a good thing to maybe have something in place where the activities are like sought out for the crew. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, here's the activities that are available.
Yeah.
And if you guys all want to do something
Yes.
today,
Yeah.
I will help you book it or something, because obviously there's a lot of sometimes language barriers that you come up
Yeah.
against and things.
Yeah. That's
Um,
fantastic. Even going like, here's her 50 passes for the winter season to go to do yoga at the studio. And that
yeah,
just encourages crew to get out of their comfort zone, because some might be shy to try somewhere new, but it encourages them to do so, and then they can connect with people that way. Or I think that would be fantastic.
yeah. And I also, the thing, what boat was it on? We had a really large crew, and we had one crew car. So if someone, a head of department, wanted to, if they were working that day, or someone was working and they needed the car, the crew are left with nothing. So then it's kind of walking distance or public transport or taxis. Now, you're not going to take a taxi up to the mountains because you can't get a taxi back. You would take the train to Sawyer, but then you're restricted by the times that it goes and comes back, so you can't really do as much as you want to. And I've always found, when a boat has a crew car or 2 crew cars or 3 crew cars, crew are like, hey, there's a car free, let's go and do this, let's fill the car. Oh,
Yeah.
there's 2 carpools,
Yeah.
let's all go. And then I always think someone that wouldn't usually do it, that maybe does feel a bit more isolated, they then come along because there's space. And it's not like, oh, I've only got 5 spaces, like, make sure our closest friends come with us. Everyone then you get to know that person, or people that you wouldn't necessarily have got to know as well, much better, because you're sat in a car next to them for an hour or something. So it kind of has, like, I feel, a snowball effect of being able to do group activities. Otherwise, we just always just would beeline. If we didn't have a car, we'd be like, so let's go shopping and then lunch. Let's meet at 1.
Yeah.
And then you have lunch and a couple of bottles of wine, and then you're kind of like, well, we might as well, if it's a nice day or a horrible day, you go into a nice cozy restaurant, or you go and sit outside, and then that's more wine, and
just
then you go out.
control. And especially alcohol, like if you're already not feeling in a good space, then that's just going to amplify your feelings the next day. It might increase the anxiety or the depression. Another question that I'd love to ask you, there are do's and don'ts when it comes to, as friends, and expressing your support to someone who's feeling lonely. So saying things like, oh, don't worry about it, you'll feel better in a few days, it will pass, or oh, just go for a run and then you'll feel better, when in fact that's not what you want to hear. Have you experienced something similar like that? And what would you advise crew who are wanting to be more supportive? What could they say?
I've definitely experienced different forms of that, and I think for me, I probably wasn't as true to myself to start off with, to be able to say. I would always be like, oh, I'm fine, and sort of behind closed doors be like, oh God, this is really hard. So I think to start off with, I would have liked to have been truer, and to be able to say, oh yeah, it's really difficult, I'm finding it really hard, for then someone to listen, I suppose. And maybe for someone that is there for you to listen and try and understand a bit better your situation, and that every situation is different. So you know, they could say, oh yeah, well, you know, I was in that situation, but you know, I got through it. And it's like, well, how did you
Mm,
get through it? And
mm,
like, oh, you know, you just do. And
mm.
it's kind of like, well, that's not helpful at
No,
all.
yeah.
Like, that, yeah, that's the most unhelpful answer. So I think for me, yeah, I would just prefer someone to listen, and I think get to know your own unique situation,
Mm,
and then it may be sort of encouraging someone to do something that might be slightly out of their comfort zone.
mm,
So, you know, if you're not feeling over the moon, or if you're not feeling great, sorry, I mean, I really enjoy yoga,
mm,
and I remember the girls on my previous boat would be like, come to the class with us. And I'd be like, no, I prefer to do it by myself. And
mm,
then I'd do it by myself, and they'd all go off to yoga.
mm,
And then I'd do it by myself because I was too embarrassed to do it in front of people.
mm,
But now I wish that I'd gone to myself. Go
mm,
on, you can do it. This isn't going to be everyone. No one, there's going to be someone else that's not as good as you or can do a stretch better than you, but you will be able to do something
mm,
better. So for me, it would have, I wish I could have overcome my, to be able to push myself just a tiny bit more and
mm,
accept invitations
mm.
when people have invited me. And then after a while, people stop. They're like, oh, well, she won't come.
Yeah.
So they stop asking.
Mm,
And I feel at one point, which was really silly of me, they're all going off and they'd stop asking me. And I was like, oh, if they ask me this time, I'll say yes.
mm,
Like, I'll say yes. And then they didn't. And then I was like, oh. But really, I could have just said, hey, girls,
yeah.
do you mind if I come?
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
So, but it, yeah, it's having that courage, I think,
Yeah.
inside of you. But it's so hard
At the
when
time,
you feel,
yes, when you're in it, it is really hard and you feel stuck and you feel like there's no way out in a way.
yeah,
I love what you say about listening because I think listening is so powerful and it's not listening where you go, yeah, sure. It's actually
yeah,
really actively listening and picking up on body language and tone and go, wow, I can really hear you're suffering at the moment. And you don't need to say a lot. You just need to be present. And yeah, that's
mm,
really healing in itself. Now, you
mm.
have done counseling. We've done counseling together. So I'm curious to know, prior to counseling, did you have any conceptions or misconceptions with regards to the notion of counseling?
Yeah, I think I did. I think I felt what I was going through wasn't significant enough to trouble someone with their time,
Mm,
basically.
mm,
And I was kind of like, oh, I'll be fine. Like this is, and I just don't think I appreciated in myself what I didn't. I don't think I understood quite how it was affecting my whole life
mm,
and each decision that I was making. And I, it's funny because a friend of mine suffers with her mental health. And I would always say to her, I think it's a really good idea that maybe you speak to a professional or, you know, maybe just see how you feel about it. And I know that they might be able to just give you some tips. So I was giving advice to other people
mm,
and not really taking time to appreciate what I was going through, and that actually it would help me if I spoke to someone. So it was kind of that whole, oh yeah. And I think I would have episodes, and I've had traumatic times in my life, but as I've grown as a person, I've felt that I've sort of overcome them, when really they are still quite prevalent in my life. And when I would have, you know, times when I would get really upset, I would be like, oh, it's hormonal, or it's because of this, and like I have these issues because of this person, and I have this because of that, and I would just palm it off, blaming different aspects of my life, people and other situations and things. So I kind of felt that I was all right, but it would then go on.
Yeah, I was about to say, when did you recognize that you needed help, or when were you ready to ask for help?
So it's this time last year, and sorry, so it was this time last year, and I was so ready to leave the boat that I was on, and I had some really good friends on that boat, and by this time last year they'd all gone. So there were lots of new people. I was feeling really down. I really didn't want to be there. But we had a monetary goal that we needed to hit, which for me, I care about, but I care more about myself than money. So it wasn't, for me, it was really difficult to power through with only having money as a goal kind of thing. And we were in the Caribbean, and we had our Christmas Day, and all the new crew members, who were all really lovely, I just didn't really click with, and I just didn't really get on that great with them. And another boat had came in with a couple of crew members that I don't talk to anymore, that were part of a really traumatic time. So just knowing that they were in the same port was a huge trigger, and I just couldn't hold it together, which I thought I'd moved past that period of my life. And I'd got married in that time. I was with my husband. I worked with my husband. We were about to leave the boat to go traveling and start our lives. And so I felt I should have been, happy and, really good about that situation. And yet I just couldn't. Every time I sort of got drunk, or I just was really down, and this boat coming in was just horrendous for me. And I would sort of talk about it with, in fact, one other crew member, and I told her the whole story, and I was just absolutely in bits. And my husband's like, I can't believe that you're still upset about all of that. And I was like, well, it was a whole situation which I think in me created a lot of issues that I hadn't been able to talk about properly. So at that point I was like, I can't believe this hasn't gone away. I can't believe this is still a huge trigger. And that was a point where I was like, I probably need to do something about this now. And I kind of felt, oh, but when we leave, that I'll be fine. When we do this, I'll be fine. Once I'm away from the yachts, I'll be fine. And then we went traveling, and yeah, it all sort of came to a head. And it was a point where I was like, that's it. Like, and I'd already been following you on Instagram, and I was kind of like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to see what happens. What bad can come out of this? I couldn't see anything. So for me, yeah, it was something that I feel I should have done sooner. But I don't think I was ready to do it then. And yeah, I think it did take something quite significant for me to go, right, that's it, I'm going to do it. So yeah, it was sort of a process, but I got round to it.
Thank you so much for sharing, so I know obviously it's very noticeable that you were crying, and it's still something that probably healing and processing, but I really appreciate your rawness and your vulnerability and your courage. Thank you so much. Yeah. In terms of other people wondering about whether they should be going for counseling, you've just described how you were able to recognize the need to ask for help. What are the benefits, or what were your personal gains from counseling?
Wow, there's so many things, I think. I mean, the biggest thing for me was understanding my different behaviours. So understanding that when I felt down, I would be like, oh, I need a glass of wine. And then a glass of wine becomes a bottle, and one bottle becomes 2 bottles. And then stuff comes out that shouldn't, or not shouldn't, but stuff would come out. My emotions would come out, and my anger would come out, and my frustrations would come out. And then the next day I'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened, and then would feel horrendous. So that was a really good thing that I learned, so I could control those certain behaviors much better, to the point now where if I do feel like that, I have the willpower and the strength, I suppose the same thing, to not drink at all, and think, I don't feel great today, I'm having a low day, I'm not going to drink. And I won't drink until I'm in a better place. So without drinking, I would then be able to communicate my feelings and my anxieties much better with my husband, or with you in the sessions that we had. So I was able to have a lot more clarity with my feelings and thoughts, to be able to control them. Yeah, those were absolutely, like, really huge things, I think. And yeah, what else? I can't think what else now.
So many significant changes, like just keeping in touch, and you updating me on, how your life is progressing, and I'm astounded. And it was only 3 sessions, I think, but it was truly, marvelous.
Well, yeah, I think that was the thing for me at the time. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be having multiple, or I thought I might end up having a session a week for a couple of years, and obviously leaving yachting, I was a bit like, oh, I don't know if I can afford that. But I went into it with as an open mind as possible, and I really wanted to be able to take something away and to be able to change the way I feel, because I didn't like the way I was with my husband, and he would, you know, get frustrated and upset with me because neither of us really understood where these behaviors were really coming from. But I was able to sort of look at those and talk to him about it, to then be able to express it well enough for you to be able to pinpoint these problems. And then as soon as I understood why, I was a bit like, oh,
and you could,
okay.
yeah, I think it's making that connection in order to let go. And yeah, otherwise we just harbor onto stuff and it just circulates in our minds, and we want to live freely and we want to put the past behind us, but when we can't make sense of it, it just keeps coming back and it's almost like it's stuck.
Yeah.
Sally, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story to so many crew, and I have no doubt that they are really appreciating your vulnerability and your honesty today. So yeah, thank you for joining us.
Okay, no worries. But my experiences, and people can start to, or people can relate and know that, you know, take their time, but it's okay to ask for help. And really what it does for you is just, for me, it's been absolutely astounding. I feel like I'm a different person.
Wow.
And it's so good. I just feel so much better about myself and my relationships around me and the way I treat people, and just everything. It's just been incredible. So I'm very grateful for you.
Looking absolutely stunning. Like, you're looking amazing. Seriously. I was going to tell you after.
I'm not my skin, I when people have said to me, oh, you know, when I stop drinking I feel so much better, and I was like, whatever. And I'm the first person to have a glass of wine, and everyone that knows me would be like, what, you're not drinking? So for me, it just feels really good to be able to say that. And everything does feel so much better, and you know, I can look at situations with clarity instead of a fuzzy mind. And you know, people, I can take responsibility for my actions and know that it's sometimes it's me, not other people.
Well done for all your hard work, because obviously it's paying off in dividends, and it's not easy. Therapy isn't easy. So yeah, well done.